Good morning and welcome back. Today we're going to discuss probability. This video is really a basic introduction to what probability is. And probability can get a lot more complicated than what we're going to discuss today, but we're going to lay the basic foundations of what probability is. So we're talking about probability, but what really is probability? Probability, I think, is best described when you say probability is a likeliness of something to happen. So for example, you could say, what is the likeliness of me having dinner tonight? This was the same thing as saying, what is the probability that I will have dinner tonight? In the same way, you could say, what is the likeliness of me winning the lottery? Which would be the same thing as saying, what is the probability of me winning the lottery? Now we say something that is certain to happen has a probability of 1. So for example, what is the probability that I will have dinner tonight? It's a probability of 1 or 100%, because there is a 100% chance, there is no doubt, no exception, I will have dinner tonight. In the same way, you say something that has no chance of occurring to have a probability of 0. So for example, what is the probability that I live in Australia is a probability of 0 because I don't live in Australia. Now, we describe something happening as an event. So we say, for example, event A is I roll a 6. And event B could be I roll a 2 on a dice. Now, we can describe then to say what is the probability of event A, which would be the same thing as saying what is the probability that I roll a 6. So we would use this notation. Probability of event A occurring would be written as P of A, and probability of B occurring would be P of B, just like it's done here. Now there are two types of events we need to discuss. The first are independent events. Independent events means that an independent event is an event where the fact that one event has occurred does not influence the second event. So for example, if I go back to the dice example, the fact that on my first roll I rolled a 6 does not in any way influence the probability of me rolling a 6 or a 2 afterwards again. However, you could have dependent events where the fact that one event has occurred influences the occurrence or the probability of another event occurring. So, for example, if I had a deck of cards, 52 cards, with 13 of each suit, the fact that I picked a heart on my first pick from the deck of cards will influence the probability of me picking a heart again afterwards, as long as I don't replace the cards, because there'd be one card missing, so there'd be only 12 hearts instead of the original 13. So, now that we've discussed all of these, let's go a bit into different types of combinations of events. So this is a bit of a new notation, and it looks kind of fancy at the beginning, but it's really not very difficult to understand. So this is how we would write here the probability of A or B. So the fact that if we go back to the idea of a deck of cards, the probability of A or B would be the probability that I pick a heart or a diamond. I'd be happy with either of them. I want a heart or a diamond. What is the probability of that happening? The probability of A and B is the probability of two things happening at the same time. So for example, what is the probability that I have lunch and dinner tonight? I want both of them to happen. It's not one, not the other, both together. And this one here is the probability of A given that B has occurred. So what is the probability that I pick a diamond given that I have already picked a heart from the deck of cards? So now we said that there's a probability of A or B and a probability of A and B, but what is it exactly? So the probability of A or B, just remind you that this is or and this one is and. Probability of A or B is the probability of the first one plus the probability of the second minus the probability of both. So you may ask, why do we subtract the probability of A and B? And we will discuss this, not in this video, but we will discuss it in our next video about Venn diagrams. So if you really want to know, come watch that video. So now the probability of A and B is equal to the probability of A times the probability of B given A. Now why B given Why B given A? Why not just B? Well, because in dependent events, the fact that A has occurred will influence the probability of B of happening. So that's how you say the fact that A's happened, how does that influence B? If it isn't a dependent event and it's just an independent event, the probability of B given A will just be the probability of B, because the fact that A has occurred will not influence it. Alright, that's it for this first video on probability. Thank you everyone for watching, and see you in the next video.